Jen here with a YA book review for you of a compilation called Toil Trouble. And hopefully I will be uploading this on Halloween. I think this is a fairly recent book. Not necessarily, I guess the stories were all copyrighted in 2018. So I think this did come out last year because I'd seen it around Bookstagram, but I didn't get it myself until this past September. And my reading's been kind of on and off, but this was actually really enjoyable. And one of the nice things about reading short stories, right, is one story might not resonate with you, but then the next one may. And this one actually had a lot of good stories in it. There's only, I think, one author that I was actually familiar with going into this, the author of Wild Beauty, which I think I reviewed on this channel. So you should be able to find that somewhere in my playlist. She's the only one who had a story that I recognize. So this story is all the stories are about female empowerment. It's YA audience, so the protagonists are, I don't think any of them are exceptionally young. I'd say, I mean, there might be siblings and stuff, so it might be anywhere between like 13 and 19 or so. And it's mostly modern set witches. I will say one story kind of seemed dystopian kind of style witches. So that was pretty cool. I didn't like all of the stories in here, but I liked most of the stories that were in here. Let's see if I can name some that I particularly liked. I will say that it does not come, and I hadn't seen any kind of trigger warnings, but there are stories with abuse, sexual violence, not explicit in here, but it is definitely a topic that's addressed in multiple of the stories. Let's see, I know I really liked Death in the Sawtooths. I've kind of been reading this all month long, so I don't necessarily remember exactly all of them. Love Spell was a great story. That's the one by Anna Marie McLemore, who wrote Wild Beauty. What else did I like? Boy, it's really hard when you're looking at just the story names. I liked the Garin Girls. That one was really emotional for me. There were a couple stories in here that made me cry. None of the stories are particularly long. I don't think any of them are really longer than necessarily, like, I don't know. I'd say on average they're about 50 pages, probably less, probably closer to 40, only because there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. It looks like there's 15 stories in here. They all have really cryptic titles, like Star Song, Afterbirth, The Heart in Her Hands, The Truth About Queenie. I like the name of this one, but I can't remember. I think I liked the story. The Moon Apple Menagerie. I don't think I liked Afterbirth. Like, Star Song was really good, and then Afterbirth was just okay, but I was like, oh, yeah, there's so many stories in here, I'm going to keep reading anyway. And for the most part, I enjoyed all of these stories, actually. It's a pretty diverse, like, there's some stories that are, I think there's more than one. I don't think there's just one. I think there's 2 stories that are, like, Mexican legend based. There's one that is, I don't know if it's Lithuanian or, like, Russian based, or, like, Soviet based, even though I'm not sure referring to something as Soviet is, like, a term anymore. But all those countries that used to make up the Soviet Union, like, in the 80s or 90s. But there's a lot of diversity. There's a lot of sexual diversity. Nothing explicit, just in terms of, you know, bisexuality or being a lesbian or whatever are traits of some of the, or orientations of some of the characters in here. So it's really diverse. But it's really interesting. It's really dark, which I didn't realize going in. I had seen one person say it was darker than they thought it would be. There's a lot about revenge, and then in the acknowledgments it actually made me laugh because it says, our patient and loving partners who were not at all unnerved by the revenge going on in this anthology. So there's a lot about empowerment. Now, if I really wanted to go off on a tangent, I could say I don't necessarily think getting revenge on someone, one, is very actual aligned with witchcraft, because the first rule of witchcraft, well, not rule, but the first, like, belief or tenet that is common in witchcraft is do no harm. So, and inclusion and things like that. And obviously if someone wrongs you by abusing you, that's different. But I mean, revenge is clearly doing harm to someone. So I thought that was kind of interesting. And the only reason it stands out to me is because I like to dabble in some witchy belief systems. So, and I was like, that's not necessarily in alignment. So, but overall, this was really good. It is a little bit dark. Like I said, there are some things that could be possible triggers. I wouldn't say it just has to be a Halloween read, because like none of the stories are Halloween based. And I think that the cover is a little misleading. I love the cover, but I think it conveys something a little more lighthearted than the actual contents of this book. So if you're looking for some short stories with female empowerment, you're looking for a book with diversity in it, and if you're looking for a book that has stories that are just maybe different than what's in the mainstream, then I think you should check out Toil and Trouble, 15 Tales of Women in Witchcraft, and it's edited by Jessica Spotswood and Tess Sharp. I think Tess actually has a story in here. I don't think the other author does. Yeah, The Heart in Her Hands was written by Tess. I just realized that now. It doesn't look like Jess has... Oh no, she has Beware of Girls with Crooked Mouths is her story as well. So yeah, this is a fun read. And like I said, not just limited to the month of October. I happened to choose it before knowing exactly what it entailed for the month of October. But yeah, a super great female empowerment book. If not necessarily aligning with true witchism. I don't even know what not necessarily Wicca, because Wicca and witchcraft are two different things, but definitely a fun read with lots of magic in it. So if you like magical realism, you'd probably like this one as well. In the meanwhile, happy reading.